So, again, a great welcome to everyone to the CMB talk show where science meets the enthusiasts. So, we as humans have always been curious enough to dig deeper at whatever we can comprehend in this three-dimensional world. The human mind is the center for this curiosity, and surprisingly, it has been curious enough to figure out itself. That is, the brain. It's no surprise that the people who are interested in this field are living in another dimension altogether. So, let's welcome one such enthusiast, our alumni, Yuvraju, to give us an insight on the topic, the mind, brain, and the connectome. Please give a big round of applause. So, how are you? It's been a really long time since you've come to the campus.
Yeah, it's really been a long time and we've been good.
So, coming to the topic, the mind, brain, and the connectome. The one thing that comes to my mind is what drives you towards this field of research? Can you please shed some light on that?
I would like to start answering your question by quoting Edward Blythe. He said that there is not within the wide area of philosophical inquiry a subject more intensely interesting to all who thirst for knowledge than the precise nature of that important mental superiority which elevates the human beings above the group. So it makes perfect sense to understand the pursuit of researchers in unraveling the mysteries of the brain. Brain, as we know, is an enigmatic organ. It's a 3-pound mystical mass, having the ability to contemplate itself as well as the world around. And I believe that's the world we actually reside in, as a part of this grand cosmic scheme. So it makes perfect sense to understand the functionings of it.
Wow, that's really complex. However, being a student who's interested in research in this particular field, what do you think is complex in the research field? And what do you think is the challenge which is coming in this arena?
See, there are roughly the same number of neurons in our brain as there are stars in the entire Milky Way galaxy. This itself is bound to make us acknowledge the magnitude of complexity and potential that resides in us. In the realm of science, the human mind and the universe pose the greatest scientific challenges of all. The universe, on one hand, deals with the vastness of the external space, but the human mind, on the other hand, deals with the vastness of the internal space where our hopes, desires, emotions arise. As they say, every new challenge is a key to open up new opportunities. An intriguing opportunity was forged in an attempt to understand the human brain like never before, which ultimately led to the inception of what is called the connectome.
Whoa, that's a lot, and especially it's very insightful. However, I'm really stuck upon this one word that you just mentioned, which is the connectome. What is it?
What if I say that collection of nearly 90 billion neurons interconnected by 150 trillion synapses in our brain, which gives us a tremendous array of capabilities as human beings, is to be mapped like a blueprint. That precisely is what a connectome is. The term connectome refers to the complete map of neural connections in our brain. It can be thought of as a wiring diagram.
Right, so if you had to shed some more light on this term connectome, could you please let us know what the principle behind this term is?
See, I'm not going much into the etiology or history of the connectome, but rather would focus on the basis that drove the connectome research, which is the fundamental understanding that the function and the structure of brain is tightly interlinked. To put this in another way, I would say that the consequences of brain disorders is eventually correlated with the structural integrity of the neural architecture.
Oh, right. But if you had to go about this journey, how would you map this process of understanding the brain or to go deeper into this field? How would you map that?
As you know, it's an emerging field of brain research. The dawn of new possibilities awaits us each and every moment that passes. So I won't be able to cover every technique, but I'd like to shed some light on interesting techniques that we use to map the neurons. That is the connectome. There's a technique called brain in which the neighboring neurons are made to fluoresce in a variety of colors. In this technique, the researchers introduce a random combination of 4 different fluorescent proteins into each neuron so that as it accumulates in varying amounts, it produces nearly 100 different colors due to combinatorial effect. So, this results in a stunning rainbow-like appearance, giving each neuron its own distinctive color. This can be used by the researchers to map the connections between them. There's another technique which is virus mediated. It's a fact that when a rabies virus infects a human or an animal, it affects and spreads throughout the brain. This effect can be taken as an advantage and a methodology can be created. That is, if we manipulate the virus such that it leaves a trail of green fluorescent proteins behind as it infects the brain, we can actually elucidate the connections. That is, the researchers can use this to track the virus jumping across the neurons, and the neural connections can be made sense. And ultimately, that's a technique which uses non-invasive brain imaging, that is, diffusion tensor imaging. Diffusion tensor imaging measures the behavior of water molecules in our brain. The tendency of water molecules in our brain is to traverse along the length of nerve fibers rather than side to side. So, the researchers can track the direction of water movements within the neuronal fibers and make sense of the neural pathways that exist in localized brain regions.
Wow, so I'm pretty sure a lot of us have already figured out as to how you can go about this journey if we ever decided on so. However, we're doing a lot of things as you mentioned already, that so much is being done in the field. What do you think would be the ultimate goal behind this field of research? Please, can you shed some light on that?
See, the far-fetching goal of connectome research is to elucidate the anatomical and functional connectivity that exists between a healthy human brain and to derive data that drives research into brain disorders like Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, etc. So the ambitious goal, I would say, is to find the fundamental root cause of human cognition itself, the consciousness of human nature. One day, I think, just as we are able to pinpoint some positions of places using Google Maps, we can actually pinpoint and characterize the neurons in our brain. That's the goal.
Wow, it has been really insightful to have a word with you. And I'm sure this is one of the many talks that we are going to have in the future. And I'm sure I'll be able to pour some coffee to that mug at the end. So, please give a big round of applause for Adam.
Back shortly with another talk coming right for you. Thank you. where science meets the enthusiast. Coming up, we have another talk from our second year students, which talks about medical science, which has been growing since forever now, and we shall understand its potential through this one talk presented by them. The speakers are Sneh, Bhalani, Durva, Bhatt, Shaliha, Pathan and Dhara Patel. Please give a big round of applause for them.
Good afternoon. We are here to discuss about the future. With future comes possibilities, hopes, and sometimes disappointment.
We start already, I have so much to say.
Anyway, some might agree that we're already living in the future. The impossible has already come true. But as the world evolves and as we all evolve, the problems are increasing. And one of them is death and diseases. So let us start this discussion on the future of medicine.
I would like to agree to that point, since we have come from a long way of making antibiotics and insulin shots to even preparing a genetic vaccine at a crucial time of pandemic. And just not to forget to mention that even the therapies developed till now are at least lessening the effect of deadliest diseases like cancer.
So what do you think comes the next?
Gene therapy, without a question. It is a technique focusing on genetic modification of cells. What happens is that there is a vector carrying a gene into the part of the body that has the damaged cells. The gene is the normal one, so it goes there and it corrects those. It is like abolishing the disease at the actual and absolute root. Can you believe it?
You know what this reminds me of? Proto-oncogenes. Proto-oncogenes are the genes which mutate and cause cancer. In normal conditions where the machinery of the cell works fine, cell which commits suicide and kill itself eventually, but if that doesn't happen, immune system will find it and eradicate it soon. But if that doesn't happen also, if a cancer is formed.
But then how it is related with gene therapy?
I'll tell you how.
That would ensure that the vector spreads the gene over a larger distance. So there is still hope.
All the same, there is pretty high chance of gene being inserted in healthy neuron. It would lead to side effect. Exactly. The side effect can be as bad as frequent seizures caused in the body. Now this is like a good, this is just like a fairy tale, too good to be true, and cannot be implemented in the near future, I guess.
But Dhara, why are you being so insensitive to people? What is wrong in the encouraging this type of research? Just think in the perspective of a relative of a patient.
Sneh is right, we can't just crush their hopes like this. We have to be patient in these neurological cases. It is hard to find the animal equivalent before moving on to human trials.
Is everything alright?
Yeah, it's fine. Actually, a person very close to me is severely ill for some time.
Well, what is it? Is it cancer or something heart related?
How come you only mention these physical illnesses when we're talking about mental illnesses? They are suffering from depression and anxiety. Okay, now that's not an actual illness, so can we skip this?
Oh please Dhara, don't do that. I'm really disheartened to hear this.
Yeah, they tried therapy and medicines, but nothing is working quite well.
I think the answer to the depression is also lying in the near future.
What do you mean?
Scientists have found something really cool which can solve this problem.
Nowadays, the medical services are too expensive for a normal person to get. So I think this will also be one of them.
No Dhara, actually they have found something which is right in front of you all. And I guess everyone has eaten it at least once in their lifetime. What should I say? It is also one of the toppings of a pizza.
Olives.
No.
Is it capsicum?
No.
Cheese.
Cheese? Seriously? If that was a solution, I would have used that in every meal I have because I'm so depressed.
Mind you, will you tell us now?
So they are mushrooms.
I don't like mushrooms.
Okay, please, I'll explain it. You will like mushrooms in just 5 minutes. So we all know there are a special category of mushrooms which are hallucinogenic in nature, and they contain a special compound which affects your brain when you consume it.
But we are a little confused. How is this related with anything that we discussed?
I'll explain that. See, we all know that neurotransmitter, that is serotonin, is actually also a hormone which affects the brain parts, that is colostrum and amygdala. And they are actually responsible for controlling your moods. Like if there is less of the serotonin in your body, it will show you the symptoms of depression. And the mushrooms which we have found, scientists call it magic mushroom. Why? Because they contain a special compound called psilocybin, which is actually working similar to the serotonin. How? Because they saw that psilocybin, when you consume it, it gets broken down into psilocin. And psilocin is actually structurally similar to the serotonin. So, and also it affects the same parts of the brain where the serotonin takes place.
But then what about the side effects?
Yes, see, I have an answer for that as well. A group of 60 people were taken into trial, and they were given two types of tablets. One was the normal, that is serotonin tablets available in the market, and they have very high amount of side effects, and to even some people they are not even effective, while some were given consuming the mushrooms. So they found that this treatment level was 70% more efficient with the mushrooms than in comparison with the usual tablets, that is of the serotonin.
From what I heard, this psilocin, which you said, is hallucinogenic, and it can cause a menace. It causes high and can be addictive.
Yes, Shaliha, you are right. I guess even psilocin is actually criminalized and restricted in many countries. But we should expect that our researchers would try to use that compound and maybe indulge it into the future tablets, which are actually effective and not have side effects like serotonin.
Well, just another problem we have to work on.
Yeah, I guess.
So far we have discussed about diseases of the future and its cures. But can any of these...
But if you are talking about extending human life, is it just more sick years, just lying in bed with Alzheimer's?
That is a good point. Growing old brings risk to diseases like arthritis, diabetes, Alzheimer's. So here in this case, slowing down aging would actually mean increasing the healthy span of life and not just the lifespan.
Well, then there are many therapies and claims for that. There is also one oxygen therapy, and researchers are also making many promises regarding that. But for this, where is the solution? For the solution, we need the problem. So where is the problem?
Yeah, theories may come and go. Since in ancient time we had a theory which was stating that the aging is due to the mutations of the DNA. But we all know our scientists proved that wrong.
Yes, it is not that. One of the prominent cause of aging are the telomeres. Telomeres are short sequences at the end of chromosomes, like there are shoelace tips at the end of shoelaces. They protect our DNA when the cell divides, because as the cell divides, the length of the telomere shortens, and when they reach a certain short length, the cell dies, becomes senescent, and the accumulation of these senescent cells, it roughly causes aging.
Yeah, an article also says that fasting, or only intermittent fasting, where we eat for 8 hours out of 24, works wonder with the metabolism, makes the body more efficient at breaking down nutrients and burning calories. It also slows down the process of DNA degradation.
So if I understand this correctly, intermittent fasting or amino acid restriction, it makes our body believe it is in a dangerous environment, which would activate the longevity genes. Longevity genes, they organize proteins and they recruit enzymes that repair broken DNA. Also, the absence of these genes has caused some mice to age prematurely.
Makes sense why monks have such healthy and perfect lifestyle. They eat less and have the same kind of environment. Also with the month of Ramzan, where we fast for a stretch of hours, which works on the same principle.
Yes, that is so ironic that the problems that we face today, we have got the solutions in the ancient scriptures.
Well, maybe we should look in past to find the problem for future. Or instead of just stalling around like this, we can focus on ourselves and our actions.
Why, Dhara, you have been so pessimist on this topic?
Exactly. Being pessimistic is being honest.
We should encourage our scientists at least,
Okay,
because they are trying a lot.
I think this is going in a different direction. Let us end this here. Thank you all for
Thank you.
Thank you to the audience for showing up today. This was the first of our CMB talk show, and we're sure there are going to be a lot more. Thank you. To all our guests who had showed up here and give us so much support. Starting from our alumni, Yuvraju, Sneh, Bhalani, Durva, Bhatt, Shaliha, Pathan and Dhara, Patel. We would also like to extend our gratitude towards our coordinator, Dr. Sahani, sir. Thank you so much.